Welcome. You're tuned to the Urban Affairs program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host, Pete Rhodes.
Welcome. You're watching Urban Perspectives. I'm your host, Pete Rhodes. This edition of Urban Perspective is sponsored in part by BMAnetworks.com. On this episode of Urban Perspectives, we discuss team leadership with the general manager of KMOJ, the executive vice president of legal affairs for the Minnesota Vikings, and a former captain of the Minnesota Gophers women's basketball team. These talented team leaders will discuss their perspectives on how to be successful leaders, and teamwork makes the dream work. It's all happening right here on Urban Perspectives. My first guest oversees a team of radio personalities, underwriting staff, a host of volunteers and contractors to lead a successful combination of music, information, and connection to the communities through KMOJ, the People's Station. Please welcome Kevin Quarrels. Kevin Quarrels. How you doing, Kevin Quarrels?
I'm doing pretty good, Pete. How you doing?
We go back so far. I couldn't.
I know.
You know how
you probably don't say my last name a lot.
I don't say it a lot.
That's probably
yeah. But you know what? When we first met, we were just talking on the phone constantly.
Yeah, for years. I used to manage a production company called On Mic Productions, and we used to do a lot of you guys' work.
Did a lot of work for the Black Music.
So I think I knew you for like, what, 8-9 years before I even met you?
Saw you.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your broadcast history? How did you get into the business overall?
Well, you know, as a young boy, I was growing up in a small town in Kentucky, and you know, working on farms, you start thinking to yourself, it's got to be something better than this. Mm-hmm. So I'd always been fascinated with music, but I never could sing, and I can't play an instrument.
All right.
So I decided to start getting into just, you know, doing some DJ work. So at 16, I got lucky and was marrying a gentleman and got to be his shadow at the radio station, and just fell in love with that ever since then. So
yeah.
Just decided.
You met Mitch and you started doing that production.
Well, Mitch and I grew up in the same small town, so we already knew each other from a young age.
Mitch Faulkner.
Mitch and Arvester, yeah. And what happened was their mom and my dad worked at the same factory together.
Okay.
So when I, when radio, you dabble in and out, because it's one of those jobs that if you try to make a career out of it, if your financial situation is not going to be great, but if you're single, it's cool. But when you get married, when I got married, it took its toll financially. So I got out, decided I was going to do something else, and decided to get back into radio, and moved to Macon, from Atlanta to Macon, and got back into the business.
There was Mitch.
Well, realized I wanted to go back to Atlanta, so I called Mitch and Arvest. I said, "Hey, man," well, and they had this production company, which was really a fascinating situation. They did a lot of imaging for radio stations around the country. And when I started working with them, we kind of took it global. Yeah. So we went from like 70 radio stations to probably about 180. Yeah.
Synonymous in radio. What do you look for in a good on-air personality as a leader of the only over-the-air radio station for urban communities here? What do you look for?
Well, it's funny. It's almost like anything else, and I always equate radio with sports. Mm-hmm. So to me, I look to find a good personality. You look for someone who's mentally stable enough to handle the pressure. Yeah. And what I mean by that is in radio, you can instantly go from a nobody, and what I mean by that, someone that no one knows about, to all of a sudden everybody hears you on a daily basis. So a lot of times people can't handle that, and it tends to go to the head. So the first thing I look for is somebody who's going to stay humble. Mm-hmm. Of course, talent's important, but the structure of KMOJ is that we're a training facility anyway. Mm-hmm. So we'll work with you on the other parts, as long as you can keep things in perspective and understand what you're really there to do.
How important, as a training station, is volunteers and others to the daily operation over there?
Well, our volunteers are invaluable. I mean, urban radio is not it could be a great audience builder, but not very good revenue builder. And that's even in commercial radio. So we're blessed enough to have a host of volunteers that come in and volunteer their time, and it allows us to keep the expenses down, to keep the format. Otherwise, we'd probably have to change the format. But one of the things I always say is our volunteers, and what we try to make them understand, is that they're really not volunteers. They're really trainees, because it's a career builder if you want it to be. So if you keep that in perspective, then they tend to understand that what they're doing is important, and they'll try to learn. Because really, it's a teaching opportunity.
Yeah, it is. So, what is the real meaning behind KMOJ, the People Station? Well,
one of the things that when I got here 10 years ago that I wanted to change the overall thought process around the radio station. I think we call ourselves the People Station because we want to be all inclusive. But one of the things we try to do is keep that black experience. When I listen to the radio, if I want to listen to urban music, I'll turn it to the urban station. If I want to listen to rock, I turn to the rock station. So we want to give the black perspective to whoever is out there want to hear it. So we call ourselves the People Station because we want everyone to tune into us to hear the black experience. You know, and we tend to focus a lot on music that caters toward African Americans, but we try to be as broad with that as we possibly can with our programming.
Now, what would you consider one of the most important aspects of that KMOJ had to deal with in our community in recent time?
Well, I can only speak for the last 10 years, but I think that one of the big things that we've been trying to do is trying to bring together our people in our community. I think one of some of the biggest issues that we've been dealing with in our community is education. And I think that's one of the things that we really want to focus on as a radio station. And that's a challenge that's ongoing. But I think that one of the biggest issues that causes some of the rift in our community is the fact that we as a people just don't come together and discuss our differences. You know, with the advent of social media, I think a lot of times people run and tell their story on social media. Where back in the day, they would come to TV, radio, they go to the black media and try to discuss their issues. So,
well, Kelvin, you do a fantastic job over there. Keep up the great work, and it's come a long way, and you'll get it going much further under your direction.
I want to commend you and Kim and your staff on this program, man. This is the bomb.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Kelvin Quarrels.
There you go.
Coming up, we talk to a former Timberwolves and ESPN sideline reporter and the former captain of the Minnesota Gophers women's basketball team. I'll go one-on-one with Leah B. Olson next on Urban Perspectives.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us. Watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Well, my freedom has a state of mind all its own, and I will be well, for it's a place I can't call home.
UCare Choices.
Decide on me.
New health plans for the new health insurance marketplace. Learn more at ucarechoices.org. UCare. Choose well.
To me, basketball is my passion. I'm excited to be here.
We're looking forward to playing together. Can't wait to get started.
We need Target Center packed. We need it loud.
You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to the new age.
Welcome back to Urban Perspectives. My next guest is an Emmy Award-winning TV personality and nationally recognized sports journalist. She has served as sideline reporter and sports analyst and game host for a lot of various stations, sports writer, and a producer. Currently, she's a sought-after public speaker who addresses innumerable issues that affect women and athletics around the world. It's my honor to welcome Leah B. Olson to the set. How you doing, Leah?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming. We had talked with your brother about him being on, and many folks don't know that Dan is your brother.
Yeah,
and,
Dan Bergen. He's over at TPT.
TPT, and award-winning individual as well. So, but I'm glad for the replacement.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too.
It's not a replacement, actually. It's a step up for me having you here. So how did you become what you are, involved in sports both on and off the court, Leah?
Well, I started playing sports late in my life, not until high school that I really found the court. And then I played at Minneapolis South. And then I graduated a year early from high school, and so I went on to community college so I could kind of continue to hone my skills in basketball. So I played at Minneapolis Community College and then moved on to the Golden Gophers, where I knew then that I wanted to get a degree in journalism and mass communications and use that somehow to carry on with sports in my career, and have been thankful that I've been able to do that.
Now you were a leader there, becoming a captain there at the team, and being in that position, a leadership position, what does it really take, you think?
I think you have to trust a lot of people, and the way I did it was through hard work. I was definitely not the best athlete on the team, so I had to kind of show myself in a different way, and so I always said I'm never going to have to do a drill over again because I didn't work hard enough, and so I just presented myself in that way, and that if I can work as hard as anybody else on the floor, then I could be that leader in that way.
That's great to know. Now, in your opinion, sports is still considered a man's world. Who were some of your influences and to help you make that career choice and be successful in that?
Well, I really just didn't stop to think of it that way. I just knew that that was something I was really passionate about and wanted to be in it. When I started working for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I started actually in marketing, and they knew I wanted to work my way over to broadcasting, but I kind of had to prove myself in that area. And when I did that, when I did start working within the basketball department, when Kevin McHale and all those guys were here, if you knew your stuff and you were professional, they were fine with who you were. So I really didn't have an issue with that.
Yeah. So I guess the same, you would give a good advice to any woman who decides to enter in the field of sports, just to stay focused and show what you can do.
Exactly, and stay and really know what you're bringing to the table. And I think in sports, if you're talking about something and you're using a wrong term, it's so clear to everyone that you don't know what you're talking about. And so if you come prepared and know what you're speaking of, then people respect that.
So what are your future goals in this business?
Well, I'm to the point right now where I'm still doing the work that I love, as the analyst for the Minnesota Lynx and doing the state high school tournaments for boys and girls basketball. So that's the broadcasting piece that I love. Also working on a show for Gopher football. But the part that I'm doing that I'm working for in the future is doing some presentations on sports, youth sports right now. And I'm doing the research on, are we presenting sports to kids in the right way right now? Is it too much? Is it too stressful? How do the kind of helicopter parents playing into youth sports right now, is that good or bad? And just kind of looking at that. So I'm hoping to bring that to light in the next year or so in a series of presentations.
How important is family in all of this? When you look at the constant travel and the schedules that one may have in broadcasting, how important is that for you?
Well, first of all, I think family is always the most important for me, and I've been able to kind of shape my career around my kids, and thankfully I have a husband who has a real job, so so it works for us to do that. But it's always, to me, the background and the people who support you are your family members, and so that's always going to be number one, and hopefully you can work your career around how your family is and how it shapes your family.
We see each other often on the catwalk for the Cure with the Lynx. And they seem so involved in that. And how important do you think that is for the players to be involved in that cause?
Well, I think the one thing that the Minnesota Lynx do, and they do so well, is they have a strong commitment to the community. And the WNBA players are so accessible to people. And so when the Lynx head out and they do any type of community event, and that one is for breast cancer research in the state of Minnesota, they're completely involved in it. And so I think it's great. It's great to see your heroes up close, but then also see that they're real people who face real issues as well.
Yeah. Leah, I really appreciate you coming on and really appreciate the work that you do in the public eye out there. You represent this community very well. And so we want to just thank you for doing what you do and being here today on Urban Perspectives.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
All right, Leah B. Olson. Weekly here on Urban Perspectives, we present Shining Stars, highlighting people, places, and events that contribute to the vibrancy of the urban community. A shining star this week is an accomplished music video producer who has produced local and national videos starting way back in high school. He creates extraordinary visual effects in his work, making him one of the most sought-after video producers in the music business today. Here's a look at our shining star, Ben Hughes.
My name is Ben Hughes. I'm a filmmaker slash videographer. I graduated from De La Salle High School in downtown, well, near downtown Minneapolis. I've been doing this stuff since I was like 16. Well, as a job since I was like 16. And then I've been doing it for fun since I was like 12 years old, just in middle school, just making videos with my friends and stuff like that. This stuff, I mean, I'd feel weird if I didn't. I'm naturally attracted to it. It's fun. It's the only thing I like to do, really. Well, the biggest right now is this artist, Chief Keef. I haven't worked with him in a while. I worked with Riff Raff. I worked with Waka Flocka on one video. Auburn from Minnesota, the one who made the La 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 and Perfect 2 single, the Wine Rich Kids, NSJ crew. I recently did a video for the NSJ crew, which is their spin-off group from the Wine Rich Kids. It's called, what's it called? Honor Roll. And that one was one of my favorites too. I was a real computer nerd. I didn't get out of the house that much, but that's how I learned everything. So like just online, because everything's online, like everything. I get inspiration from just everything. It depends. Sometimes a lot, it's other videos, just other videos or my life. And sometimes it's just brainstorming, just sitting there in my bed, like, or on my computer, just thinking with like ideas written down. I don't really do too much storyboarding. I just write stuff. Like I haven't really ever completed a successful storyboard. I've tried one time and it didn't work out too well. My end goal is really to make Hollywood movies, like big budget, blockbuster, stuff like that. If you're young, just starting out, I'd say, of course, just don't stop, don't quit, but also that you can do anything if you learn how, and if you learn how to learn how, you can learn how. And that's a little tongue twister, it's a little confusing, but think about it, it makes sense. I'm Ben Hughes, and you're watching Urban Perspectives.
Thanks, Ben. Up next is the Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer for the Minnesota Vikings. As a sport and entertainment attorney and agent, he has represented various professional athletes, entertainers, and broadcasters in the league. He's a proven winner. I'll talk with Kevin Warren next on Urban Perspectives.
Well, my freedom has a state of mind all its own. And I will be well, for it's a place I can't call home.
UCare Choices.
Decide on me.
New health plans for the new health insurance marketplace. Learn more at ucarechoices.org. UCare. Choose well.
To me, basketball is my passion. I'm excited to be here.
We're looking forward to playing together. Can't wait to get started.
We need Target Center packed. We need it loud. You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to the new age.
As the highest-ranking African-American executive on the business side of the NFL, my next guest enters his 16th season in the league, 10 with the Vikings. He serves as the Vice President of Player Program and Football Administration and has received numerous recognition as an outstanding leader. He is a former athlete that excelled in the classroom and on the court. Please welcome Mr. Kelvin Warren. Kevin, how you doing?
Good to be here.
I am glad to have you here. When we first had you on our list, we said, I don't think we can get Kelvin Warren, you think? My wife said, call.
Right.
Kevin was here for us. We appreciate that very much. You know, you have established a lot of records, I understand, from your University of Grand Canyon, scoring records, what is it, most points, and been elected into the Hall of Fame there, and one of the only 5 basketball players to be elected there. How did you get into football?
You know, it's interesting. After I graduated from college, I went to graduate school and got my MBA at Arizona State, and then I went to law school at Notre Dame and practiced a few years, and then I decided to become a sports agent. And when I started my business, I had planned to only represent basketball players because that's what I understood and knew. But football was the first season because I started my business in the summer. And I figured I didn't want to sit around until practice started in October and let me just start recruiting some football players. And I ended up signing some very prominent college athletes right away. And once that started, then it just seems like I never got the time to get around to start recruiting NBA players, and kind of the rest is history. Yeah.
What was your first sign?
Chris Zorge, who was All-American at Notre Dame, and he had just completed his rookie year with the Chicago Bears, and we connected, and it was just we had a perfect relationship. So it was good to start with someone who was very inclined to be involved in the community and was a good football player. And so it was very easy to represent him, and we remained friends over the years, and still talk with him today.
Coming from Chicago, I know Chris. And what he was doing there. So what are your duties in your position there with the Minnesota Vikings?
You know, I've been very blessed and fortunate because I was the lawyer that represented the current ownership group who bought the Vikings. So I had worked 4 years with the Rams and won a Super Bowl there, and 2 years at the Lions, and I was back in private practice in Phoenix, and was hired by the group to help them buy the Vikings. And so quite naturally, when you work on a deal like that, when you come here, you get a chance to kind of touch every area. So currently, I'm on the business side of the organization, work hand in hand with ownership and the other executives, and really play a key role in all of the business aspects. So from the stadium to day-to-day business operations, legal issues, business. And so, you know, fortunately it's a cross-section, and never have a chance to kind of get bored or anything from that nature.
Well, speaking of cross-section and boredom, there's no boredom in the league today with a lot of issues that are going on with the players and so forth. How do you think the league is moving forward to repair the credibility of the league and the players, and as well the fans, keep them as strong as they are today?
You know, I think this has been an interesting time, and I'm one of those people that always tries to remain very positive, even during these tumultuous times, which this year has been a very complicated year. But I think one of the things that the league has done a very good job, and also the teams, is to realize that during this period of complication, it really is a time for us to see what we can do to get better. And because one of the things that we've been very blessed with in the NFL, we've had a run of success. You know, growth, stadium growth, popularity, financial. And it's easy when that happens to sometime kind of not focus on some of these issues that may have been tangential, but been there that you needed to address. And I think, fortunately, although it's been painful, this year has provided us, not only at the team level, but at the league level, to kind of face some of the issues and make some appropriate changes.
So everything isn't always good, but somehow it's for the better.
Yes, I agree with that.
What is your mission to creating that winning attitude with the Minnesota Vikings organization?
I think just in any organization, but especially with the Vikings, especially in sports, is probably 2 things. Number one, a lot of people assume that because it's a sport activity involved, that it's fun and games. And it is fun, but this is really a business. And as I tell a lot of people all the time, there are really only 48 hours of football a year. I mean, 16 games and 3 hours. So it's a lot of other things that go into play. So you have to keep in mind, although a sport, this is really a business, you know, first. That's number one. And secondly, I think just creating an atmosphere where people really enjoy coming to work. And that takes time. You know, winning helps that. But you know, there's a great book out now that, you know, leaders eat last. And I think that was the whole tone of that is really about that from a leadership standpoint. You got to create an environment where people really enjoy coming to work. They feel like they're what they say is important, and they go home feeling fulfilled. And also, I know that's one of the things that the Vikings were constantly working on to try to figure out ways to provide people an opportunity to give their input and make it a great place to work and touch the community in the right way.
Now, touching the community, Vikings does that every Tuesday. They're out in the community. We've seen a lot of situations with them out in the community. How important is that to the team? I
mean, it's very important. All of our players on our roster are involved in the community. There's a lot of things that we do from a standpoint. Brad Mattson, who's been our executive director of community affairs, does a wonderful job. We just hired E.J. Henderson, who's a former player at the Vikings, retired as our youth football coordinator. We've had some people just, you know, recently join our organizations or who have taken on new roles to really build better bridges in the community. And I think that's one thing that's incredibly important, especially where we sit from a professional football standpoint.
You're doing a fantastic job. We got the Super Bowl coming here in 2018. You ready for it?
Oh yeah, we will be ready at the time. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Kelvin Warren, we appreciate you being here. Appreciate the work that you're doing. Appreciate how you are showcasing the team, hopefully in a better light moving forward, and all the work that you're doing over there for the organization. Thanks so much.
And I appreciate all that you do and what you stand for too.
Thanks so much. Kelvin Warren right here with us. Thank you for watching Urban Perspectives. I would like to thank my guests, Kelvin Quarrels, Leah B. Olson, and Kevin Warren, our shining star, Ben Hughes. And most importantly, I want to thank you, the audience, for getting up with Urban Perspectives. And don't forget to like our Facebook page, where you can also link to various and previous broadcasts. Remember, there are positive things happening in our cities. See them right here on Urban Perspectives. Now, enjoy the photos of the week featuring Rumble on the Runway. This was a fashion show for a benefit. I'm Pete Rhodes, and we'll see you next week.